Hey, welcome to Screenplay Junkie. My name's Drew Hellmich, and I'm a screenwriter. Film is a pretty sweet medium of art. However, before anything can make it to the big screen, it must start as a blueprint, text on paper. So if you're a fellow addict of film and storytelling, come join us as we take a look at various types of screenplays, short stories, and other source material that were crucial to the creation of the stories that we all love. I must warn you, though, there will be spoilers, so I do recommend being familiar with the title that's being discussed. Sound good? Cool. Then let's get started.
Some corn and eat it. Who's down for a corn race?
Oh yeah, totally. Let's go.
Corn race. First one to shit their corn out and take a picture of it wins.
8 out of 10 times.
I'm gonna take some laxatives, bro. I'm gonna speed up the process. I'm gonna cheat. I shouldn't be telling you guys that I'm gonna cheat.
That are very confused on what corn race is.
This is not that kind of show. This is not that kind of show.
We don't eat that much corn, I swear.
Sorry about that, everybody. We were experiencing some technical difficulties.
Error.
Drew Hellmich here. Welcome to Screenplay Junkie, Episode 8. Today we're going to be looking at Children of the Corn. And just like eight-legged freaks, you may be wondering, why the hell are we taking a look at this film? Well...
It's my favorite movie of all time.
Really, Bryan? Like seconds ago, you said you've never even seen it before.
You didn't even prepare for the show. You didn't watch the movie, Bryan.
Yeah, we got a slacker here, everybody.
But he did read the short.
I have to see the movie.
He did read the short story, which is where the movie got the idea from.
Yeah, so you get like 50%.
You get 50%.
Yeah. So the short story, guys. Short story was originally published by Stephen King in Penthouse magazine.
Yeah, baby.
Penthouse.
Yeah, Penthouse.
Wait,
so like a Playboy
like Playboy.
esque type magazine. I don't think they publish it anymore. I could be wrong about that. But the short story was included. 30-page short story was included in Penthouse. I can just see this. Like some guy, like some older guy, like his wife found Penthouse in the bathroom, and the guy was like, "What? Like the new Stevie King short story came out in Penthouse. That's the only reason I'm getting this. I'm not getting this for the to admire the female anatomy here. I just want to read a little Stevie King." So
it's a really good short story. So like it's kind of surprising that it started in a Penthouse magazine because it's a very, very good story.
I think that's just what they did in the 70s.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Like
they were drop it places or
nudie mags and short horror stories.
Yeah.
Well, you know, back then the nudie mags were definitely getting eyes. I mean, now that we have the internet, so that was, I guess, it's a good place to drop your short story.
The internet changed the nudie magazine game forever.
Yeah.
We don't got to talk about that though.
Right.
That's another podcast.
So yeah.
How the nude magazines have been changed forever. Right.
So this was published in March of 1977 in that Penthouse issue, and then later on it was collected in a Stephen King anthology in 1978 called Night Shift, which I actually picked up a copy. Well, I found it at a flea market in Peoria, Illinois when I was in college. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Wow. What other kinds of stories are in that Night Shift book, Drew, besides Children of the Corn?
You know what? It's been a little bit since I've looked at it, so let me take a look really quick.
It says on the cover, Carrie.
No, that's a novel. That was the first thing you ever published.
You said it was a Stephen King collection?
So this is it's called Night Shift. It's a book by Stephen King, and it contains many short stories that he wrote.
Right. So one of them that he other stories that got made into films here, and remember these are all short stories. So Trucks, which got made into Maximum Overdrive, starring Emilio Estevez,
which he actually directed himself and admitted to being so coked out the entire time he filmed it.
I'm thinking a Stephen A. King series feeling right here. We could go off with this guy with all the short stories and movies that he's made.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, dude, Maximum Overdrive is a pretty awful film. But anyway, so sometimes they come back. I think that was made into a TV film. I think The Lawnmower Man, I think that made that into a movie.
The Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, it's just about like a crazy lawnmower dude who cuts grass and like eats the grass.
You better cut your grass, or else the Lawnmower Man's gonna come cut you down.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, first glance, I don't really recognize any of these that got made into films. I could be wrong, but I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, I just thought to ask really quickly because like I was just curious out of my own mind.
Yeah, a lot of his novels have been adapted, but yeah. And I think that wraps up the genesis of the short story. Matt, do you want to go ahead and transition over to the IMDb credits for the film version?
Yeah, sure. So Children of the Corn, that's what it was titled as, the same title in Stephen King's collection of short stories. It was released in 1984, and I will read the logline now. A young couple is trapped in a remote town where a dangerous religious cult of children believe everyone over the age of 18 must be killed.
We'd all be dead.
Great job.
The logline kind of hits it right on the head, in my opinion. I mean, that's basically what's going on in this movie.
That's basically what's going on.
And in the short story as well.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so to get into the cast of this movie, the most interesting person in the movie, at least cast-wise, is Linda Hamilton, who is most well-known as Sarah Connor in the Terminator series.
Right.
I mean, just an interesting note on her. In the movie, she, looks way hotter than in Terminator, for sure.
And this came out as the same year as Terminator.
Yeah, right. This movie came out the same year as Terminator, so she was busy in 1984, correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. So she played a character named Vicky in the movie. Peter Horton plays Bert, and that's Vicky's husband. And then there's R.J. Armstrong, who plays Deal, a character who owns a gas station. And then John Franklin plays Isaac, and Courtney Gaines plays Malachi.
Yeah, I think that wraps up for the actors.
Those are the main characters, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, this movie, budget-wise, they made this movie for $800,000, which to me is very impressive, especially at the time.
Oh yeah, totally.
Opening weekend, when it was released, it made $2 million, so that's fantastic. And then gross in the USA, it's made $14.5 million. So this is a very, very successful film.
Yeah, seriously, for what it is.
Which is ridiculous because it sucks, to be honest. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, and the director and writer of this film have also done nothing. They have no other, quality credits that they're known for, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, I guess.
I mean, they tried. They tried. That's all that's important.
But the film dragged miserably.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'll get into that. All right, so quickly, I just want to go over some trivia. The most interesting trivia component of this movie is that in the opening scenes of the film, Vicky and Bert, our main characters, are driving in their car, and on the dashboard of their car is a copy of Stephen King's novel, The Night Shift, which is the novel where the short story was posted in after Penthouse.
Here, I'm going to be an ass. It's not a novel. It's an anthology of short stories.
It's an anthology? Yeah. That just makes me think of Alien Ant Farm anthology, but cool beans.
What the fuck is anthology?
Anthology, it's a word.
A published collection of poems or other pieces of writing.
Yes.
Did you just Google it?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we're quick on our feet here in the podcast world. You know, we Google things very, very quickly.
Yes.
All right, but anyways. So, the kid who plays Isaac is not a kid, okay? Let's be straight here. Isaac, the character in the short story, is supposed to be 9 years old, and the man that plays Isaac in the movie is 24. He's 24, and he looks like a kid.
Yeah, he looks very strange. It looks like he's kind of got like a Gary Coleman type, disease or whatever he had going on.
Deformality or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What, like dwarfism?
I don't know. Was he a dwarf?
No. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not gonna look into this guy's background.
No.
Okay. The last bit of trivia.
We don't care about you, Isaac.
The last bit of trivia for this film is that though real corn was used for most of the filming in this film, polyurethane corn had to be used for the more difficult action sequences.
Bring it. All right, bring in the stunt corn.
This corn isn't good enough. We need fake corn. We need fake corn. Yeah, stunt corn. Dude, what a tough life being a corn stunt man.
I know, jeez. Trying to make a living in Hollywood as a stunt corn man.
Hey, they probably were able to get pretty good work because guess what, everybody? They made 9 more Children of the Corn films after this one.
Yes, they did.
9 more.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. What else could happen?
All right, so exactly. There's a total of 10 Children of the Corn movies, and even I should mention before they even made this Children of the Corn film that we're about to discuss, they made a short film, and it was called Disciples of the Crow in 1983, so 1 year prior till they decided to make the feature film. I'm not going to talk about Disciples of the Crow.
Let's quickly just recap here. So the short story was released in what year?
1977.
And the movie came out in 84. Okay,
Right.
Good.
Right. So since 1984, we've gotten 10 Children of the Corn films.
Double digits.
Wow.
And from spanning from 1984 to 2018. So we've gotten 34 years of Children of the Corn.
How did I not hear about Children of the Corn 10 that came out this year? How did I not hear about that?
Because only Children of the Corn Part 1 and Part 2 were only distributed through theater. They only came out in theaters. Part 1 and Part 2. So parts 3 parts 3 through 10 were released directly to video.
I mean, are they still coming out on like VHS then? Is that why we can't find them?
Yes. Altogether, so this only includes number 1 and number 2 because this is the only information that I could find. Mm-hmm. Altogether, the Children of the Corn series has made $21.5 million.
It's pretty good.
See, like Stephen King's got to love it.
He's making royalties from this, and just
he probably tortured his short film with making.
Yeah, exactly. And let's remember that all of this spawned from a 30-page short story.
Yep.
Wow. 10 movies.
Yes.
You know, was the first one made with Stephen King like a known writer at this time, or was this like his beginning?
Yeah, he was known because I think his first novel that got published was Carrie, and that was in the 70s. So.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, his stuff was getting pumped out at this time. They were going through his work and be like, yeah, we could make this. Yeah, we could make this one.
We could sell this. We could sell this.
Yeah,
we could sell
we
this.
could make 10 of these.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's. Traditionally, what we've done in the past is jumping back and forth between the script and the film version of the story content. What we're going to do with today's episode is we're going to isolate each one. So first we're going to talk about the film, and then we're going to talk about the story all by itself. Okay, Matt, you ready to lead us on the film?
Yeah, I'm going to just give like a quick summary here of just kind of what's going on. Okay, so this movie starts out with a bang. Isaac, this kid, right, this preacher kid shows up in town and convinces all the kids to kill their parents. So we start in a coffee shop and we just see like adults, parents getting poisoned, stabbed to death. It's very, very gruesome. It's crazy, like kids killing their parents. Yeah. It's an insane thing going on. Right. And then after we see the scene, we go to 3 years later and we pick up with a young couple at a hotel. They're driving to the East Coast for some job, who cares? And what ends up happening is they're looking at a map while driving on the back roads of Nebraska, and they hit a kid in the middle of the road. They run him right over, and when they go to inspect his body, they notice he had already had his throat slit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is they're like, we need to report this. This is awful. They kind of investigate, and they take a blanket, and they put the kid in their trunk, and they drive towards the nearest town, which is Gatlin, which is where these kids are that are murderous.
Yeah. And so at this point, I mean, if you've never seen the film or read the short story, I think a valid, feeling of watching this is, wow, like, what is going on? This is insane.
This is really interesting. This is crazy.
Like, what? Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens with the rest of this film. But guess what? It just nosedives.
It completely drags. Literally, everything I just described was interesting and like, whoa. And everything else for the next hour of this movie is just a snooze fest.
Exactly. Like
nothing happens. They're just like running around and doing nothing.
They capitalized very well with the beginning. A lot was happening. It was interesting. It was moving very quick, and we just got this couple is just driving around and they don't know where they're going, and I don't. And at the same time, I don't know where this film is going. I felt like them.
And Brian, like, you didn't watch the movie, so I want to get your opinion on this. Like, the couple in the movie, they were just so dumb. Like
yes,
as an audience watching, you're just like, leave this town, it's not right, and they don't, and it was like painful to get through the middle of the movie.
Like they, throughout the movie, there would be like distinct signs where it's like, all right, dude, just
yes,
like,
absolutely.
Put the body in a fucking ditch. Sorry, I'm pardon my language. Just get out of there.
Exactly.
Just get out of there.
Well,
there's no one around.
I mean, they didn't even have to get rid of the body because their whole thing was they wanted to take the body to a police station.
They just wanted to give it to authorities because they know it was a murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, but their whole thing was like, well, we can't drive to the next town. Like, that's suspicious if we drive even farther with this body in our trunk. And it's a total ghost town. It hasn't been cleaned in years. They first go into a diner, and there's cornstalk everywhere. There's rats in there. And then they're like, oh, where's the phone? The phone doesn't work. And then they're like, all right, well, let's just go try somewhere else. So they keep going from, like, building to building, and it's the same thing. And it's just, it's so asinine.
It was painful to watch, in a way. Which hurts because the beginning is so good, and as I'm about to speak about next, the ending is pretty good. So just this middle part, they really fucked up.
Yeah, it was just, they were trying to create a lot of suspense and like some mystery, but I mean, it just got boring, man.
There is no mystery. The opening scene is a bunch of kids killing all the adults in town. We know who did it. We know what's there.
Exactly.
Our two main characters are just very dumb.
Yeah.
You just get the sense of that. Yeah, it's just like honestly, it's to show, just like it was made to be a short story, not a.
Exactly.
It should have never been made into a feature
Bryan,
film.
yeah, I agree. You made up a good point there. That this is a classic, taking a good short story and just forcing it into a feature film.
Forcing it, yeah.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit to when things like start to pick up. So our main character, Bert, this is when after Linda Hamilton, Vicky's character, gets captured by the kids.
But they don't want to kill her because they want to sacrifice her and Bert.
Yeah, to he who walks behind the rows.
As in behind the rows of corn.
Yeah, this is like the guy there's some like demon that they
praise.
Yeah. So Bert meets up with our two kids who are not part of this cult. These are the two kids who have the subplot, and it's really boring.
And the only reason they're alive is because the girl has the sight, and Isaac likes to use her to know what the future is going to hold.
Yeah. So they meet up, Bert and these two kids, and they kind of like, they don't really formulate a plan, but they're like, we have to go get my wife.
They basically show him where they're having their like ritual. Linda Hamilton is up on a cross.
Yeah.
Her hands are tied. She's not like nailed up there. She's fine.
Yeah.
And then she's able to get down because our character Bert kind of just like starts to persuade the kids that like what they're doing is wrong. Basically.
Oh yeah, he was able to dissuade them so easily of like this practice that they've been doing for so many years. Like all of a sudden they realize that what they're doing is wrong, and then they just follow.
Right. And something we forgot to mention too is that Isaac was put on a cross because Malachi turned on him. All the kids turned on Isaac because they were kind of sick of his shit, his preaching. So he's up on a cross, and then like out of nowhere, this supernatural being, this whatever it is, this demon kind of takes Isaac, and his cross and himself just kind of blow up.
Yeah, it
blows up into the air. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that was so funny.
So then our main character, Bert, right, he tells his wife, she gets down or whatever, and he's like, go, run or whatever. She starts, moving away towards a local barn or something.
Yeah, a barn, yeah.
And then Isaac comes back, and he's just like, back from the dead, basically, and he's just telling Malachi that the creature, this demon or whatever that they've been praising, that it wants him too.
Yeah, I mean, that part was creepy.
It was creepy.
That was genuinely creepy.
I did not see that kid coming back from
I thought, like, the voice work that they did there was pretty good.
It was very demonic.
Yeah. I mean, it was convincing.
You're saying Isaac came back?
He came back from the dead and was like, Malachi, it wants you too.
Yeah. And you don't really get to see Malachi die, but
No,
it's just assumed that he gets killed.
So then all the kids and the main characters kind of run to this barn. There's like a huge storm because this creature or
it's like
being, it's conjuring all these winds and everything, and it's making it very hectic.
It wants to show itself.
Yeah, I mean it wants to kill Bert and Vicky.
Yeah, they're like the ultimate sacrifice. Okay. They're the adults, and they're like the profane element in this like sacred land.
Exactly.
Basically, if you want to get all religious.
The main characters decide to burn down the cornfield. There's this whole scene that's really long and drawn out with they like getting gas in a hose to put it in the cornfield.
Right.
So they gas up the field. He throws a bottle,
like a Molotov cocktail,
and it doesn't explode the first time. But then the kid gets it back, and then he throws it again, and it explodes. And then
the
cornfield burns down.
Explodes.
They walk back to their car, and there's actually like a lone girl, like the last like evil kid is in the backseat of their car and tries to stab Bert but fails, and then Vicky just slams the car door into her head and she gets knocked out.
And what did he say? He's like,
no. And then the movie
ends.
Like, The movie ends with Vicky saying, "Let's get out of here. Send her a postcard
from Seattle." And then the dead kid from the beginning that they ran over is just rotting in their trunk. They just left him.
Forgot about him. They just completely forgot about the dead kid.
They just left him. Unbelievable. He doesn't even get a proper burial.
That boy has a mother somewhere. Oh wait, she's dead.
All right, so now that we've gone over this subpar film, let's transition over and talk about the short story. So let's talk about the characters first. In the short story, Bert is a Vietnam veteran.
He was like a medic, right?
Yeah. Vicky, we don't really know what she is, but I mean, she's definitely not as likable. I mean, either of these characters are not as likable.
She's, in the beginning of the short story, she's like kind of manic. She's like crazy, but then in the middle of it, she kind of becomes the logical one, which was like really weird, I thought. But
yeah, and their marriage is like totally failing, and they're from Boston. It's plummeting. They're from Boston. They're driving across the country to go to like a family event in California, I think it is.
Yeah, so it literally just starts out that Bert is turning the radio on too loud because he doesn't want to hear the argue that's about to brew.
Right.
Because he knows they're about to fight, yeah.
Because he knows about the fight of something. Who knows that? And you learn to find out that she thinks they're lost or something. They're like, where are we anyway? And she's like giving him a nice cold, neutral look.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they can continue to argue, and marriage comes up, and how is it supposed to hold our marriage, blah, blah, blah. Keep arguing. Bert has his eyes off the road, looking at her, arguing.
And then, boom!
They hit something.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing as in the movie. They hit a boy.
Right.
Okay, so they have this kid in their trunk, and they're going into town, right? And as they're driving towards the town of Gatlin, we kind of notice, like, in the short story, that a lot more time has passed compared to the movie, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it seems like in the short story, it's almost been like 10 years that these kids have been on their own.
So the characters in the short story, they pay attention more to their surroundings.
Right. I mean, especially as the wife at this point. The wife is paying a lot of attention.
I mean, they still have this tragedy coming to them. But I mean, at least they're paying attention to the surroundings other than just the ghost town. Like they're paying attention to like gas prices that have been that were prices like years ago, menu prices that were prices years ago that are just still there.
And these are all things that they're noticing. And this is when they get into the town too, right?
Yeah.
And they notice that everything looks like it hasn't been touched in years except one building.
Right.
What building was that, Bryan?
That was the Catholic Church.
Who knows what it was? I mean, I don't know if it was Catholicism. I mean,
so what they
had the Bible. So.
What they described it as. So the church is the only like pristine manicured area in this whole entire town.
So
like
they know that people are in there.
Like the grass is cut. There's a new.
That was a distinct line.
Yeah, there's a new like layer of paint on the church.
Yep.
And once Bert goes inside to investigate,
which his wife tells him not to do.
Right. He goes inside to investigate.
Been preaching that we should just leave.
Yeah.
She was smart, honestly. She really wanted to leave. She's like, this is crazy. There's no one here.
Right.
They're hearing kids laughing, right?
Yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah,
so it's just like, get out of there. And she wanted to, and Bert, he didn't listen.
So, I mean, this is not an important detail, but it was a Baptist church that this church was because he found the letters inside the church. They were taken down. They stripped it because they had created this new church. It was no more a Baptist church. So he goes in, and there's like corn figures everywhere. There was like a corn figure with like corn hair.
And there's these books.
Yeah, all sorts of just these like corn, type things in there. And then these books that described these the dates of when all the children were born, and then also when they were born into their new life. And
it was always the same like amount of years that had passed.
Yeah, Bert notices that every single child only lives up to about, what was it, age 18 or 19?
It was 19, yes.
18, 19, yes.
It was 19 on the dot.
Yeah.
Once they were 19, he as he read through and saw all these names, he realized that once these kids were hitting the age of 19, they were killing themselves.
And they all had they had their birth name of what their parents had originally named them, and then they also acquired like a name from the New Testament, I believe it was.
Exactly. Every kid was given a name from the New Testament. And another interesting thing you noticed, too, was that there was a gap in the names, too, with the birth dates. So, like, the last kid, like, say it was like an 8-year gap. So he kind of assumed that once they killed their parents, some of these kids had a new kid themselves.
Yeah. And in the film we're only told that this, from when the kids had killed their parents up until when our two characters come into Gatlin, there's only a time span of 3 years. In the short story, I mean, this has been going on for like 10 years.
Which
10
is,
years, yeah.
I mean, that's hard to believe, but I guess like in this remote small town Nebraska.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, they listed the town as having over 4,000 people in it in the short
Which is
story.
insane because I
mean, how many people did the kids kill?
I mean, I was like, what is the ratio of kids to parents?
Right.
Here?
We never really get a head count of how many kids there are here. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because that's just straight up like massacre. Like, I can't believe the adults didn't have any sort of like resistance to that at all.
Yeah, dude, you're looking at like 1,500 or 2,000 families. Like 4,000 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how many kids per family.
I mean, it is rural,
Yeah.
so maybe each family had like 10 kids. They were just pumping them out like Phil Rivers.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Bert's inside this church, right? And he figures everything out. And he's like, all right, shit, like, I need to go tell my wife.
Yeah, like she was right. We need to leave.
So he goes outside, and the kids are circling his car. And his wife is banging on the horn. She's scared shitless.
Yeah. Right.
And they take her. There's nothing there was too many kids, basically. He was like frozen in fear, that Stephen King describes.
Yeah.
And when he finally like snaps back in, there's a red-haired boy coming at him with a pretty big knife.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a jackknife or something.
Yeah, he gets him in the arm, doesn't he?
Yep, he stabs Bert in the arm, and then Bert's kind of in shock. But remember, he has a military background.
Yeah. So Bert just like takes this knife out and just stabs this kid in the neck.
Right in the throat, yeah. And the kid was
Right in
just
the throat.
gargling and gurgling blood, as Stephen King describes, and he just drops.
He would say
Yeah.
gobbled.
He just drops.
He gobbled away.
And the other kids just watch like, wait, did that just happen? Like, that was not
They were
supposed to happen.
Well, because like they're kids, right? So like some of them probably see killing adults as like a game, and like that moment when their friend is killed, the game is kind of like, whoa, like the game's over.
Yeah.
But they kind of snap back in, and they come at Bert, so Bert has to run away.
Yeah.
He ends up hiding in the cornfield out
until,
of town, out by the road.
Yeah, until like dusk.
Yeah.
He's out there for a while, and they're looking for him. But remember, Bert's ex-military. He knows these kids are unorganized.
Yes.
He was able to hide.
Yeah,
from them.
he explicitly described it as that the kids were unorganized in their search parties.
Oh, yeah, what do you expect? They're kids,
Exactly, they're kids.
Yeah.
And another thing too that I like that Stephen King wrote is that Bert kind of assumed once nighttime was hitting that they're kids, right? They're going to give up because how long are they really going to care about this guy, right? They're kids. They're going to give up.
Yeah, that was a good detail.
And that's kind of a thought process he goes to. But so nighttime is coming now, right? And while Bert's in this corn, while he's running away from the kids before nighttime hits, he starts to like Stephen King talks about how he starts to feel like good for some reason. Like he feels, even though he's not someone who works out a lot or stays in shape, he feels in shape. His lungs feel better when he breathes.
What'd you take it as?
He started to feel good because way back in the beginning when him and his wife are arguing, he's noticing that she's gone. He's just like, well, she's not like a bird in my ear that I have to keep listening to right now.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
I think that he started to feel good just because the
whatever entities
creature
out there
was in the corn, like got inside him. And it made him feel good to stay in the corn. And then once nighttime hit, they talk about how he started to feel terrible, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was, the creature had won. It's made him stay in the corn. And then this is like one of my favorite parts of the short story. Stephen King describes the corn almost like coming alive, and it separates itself and forms a path for Bert to like walk down.
Yeah.
And what does he find from following that path?
Yeah, and then he finds like this like ceremony, what the kids are performing.
Like a perfect circle of where there's no corn.
All right, and I have the specific passage of what Bert sees. So he finds Vicky, and this is what it says. She had been mounted on a crossbar like a hideous trophy, her arms held at the wrists and her legs at the ankles with twists of common barbed wire, 70 cents a yard at any hardware store in Nebraska. Her eyes had been ripped out. The sockets were filled with the moon flax of corn silk. Her jaws were wrenched open in a silent scream, her mouth filled with corn husks.
Yeah, she's dead.
Yeah, she died pretty gruesomely.
Say that again, Bryan?
I was just saying that when I read the silent, giving a silent scream with a mouth filled with corn husks, it's just like,
Yeah, I mean, just
like I could like hear that.
I think everyone, the listeners and us, like get a bad picture in your head when you hear that or read it. It's gruesome.
I mean, yeah, it's totally messed up.
That's Stephen King, though. That's Stephen King. I mean, this is the mind that's created many phenomenal horror plots.
Yeah, I mean that just right there. I mean, there's a lot of differences between the short story and the film, but I mean, just that if you want to focus in on one main difference, that alone right there, that this main character just gets killed off, and especially with that kind of description too.
Exactly, and the craziest part too is that she's the only one there, besides other bodies, dead bodies up on crosses just like her, and there's no kids around, right? And that's when Bert starts to really feel something coming for him.
Yeah.
And what's like the brief description of this creature we get? Okay, so the creature is coming for Bert, right? And remember, the kids call it "he who walks behind the rows," as in the rows of corn. Very creepy. Go ahead, Brian, and read what Stephen King describes this creature to be.
It began to come into the clearing. Bert saw something huge, bulking up the sky. Something green with terrible red eyes the size of footballs.
And that's all we really get.
Yeah, that's all we get. I mean, it's pretty vague. Like, I wanted more.
I wanted more too.
Yeah, just to know. But maybe the vagueness adds a little bit to the mystery as well.
I mean, that's really not anything like what we see in the movie for this creature. Because in the movie, we just have this like really shitty CGI. And it just looks like lava, basically.
Yeah, it's just like a face in the explosion when they're when they're like flaming up the corn.
Yeah, we don't really see much. It's just like this goo that kind of is like traveling around. Honestly,
yeah, pretty much
weird. Okay, so now that both of our main characters are dead, we pick up with the rest of the story with Isaac telling the group of all these kids that their god, whatever is out there in the corn, is not pleased with the sacrifice of Bert and Vicky because the kids didn't do it right.
Yeah, it's very sloppy.
Bert got away. It was sloppy. So their god, their creature, has changed the age of living from 19 to 18. So now all the kids that were 18 that thought they had, a couple extra months or a year to keep living have to walk into the corn at night that night and, get eaten or destroyed by this creature.
Yeah, sacrifice themselves, whatever it is.
So, Malachi, right, is one of the big guys in the movie.
Yeah.
Much smaller role.
One of the main villains in the film,
He, in the short story here, is 18. He's one of the 18-year-olds here, so he agrees to sacrifice himself. But we find out that he actually is about to have a young child with another girl in the group of kids.
Yeah.
And he walks into the corn at the ending of the story, and the woman, or the young girl that he had impregnated, I guess, she hates the creature in the corn, and she ponders lighting the corn on fire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the story ends.
And then the story ends, and it ends with like the corn being pleased.
Yeah, the corn was pleased.
Yeah, that was it. The corn was pleased. Yeah.
I'll never look at corn the same.
No. So let's transition over to just overall thoughts. Brian, what did you think?
So like I said, I'm really going to stick to the short story itself because I didn't watch the movie, but it's
that's true.
I say it's awful. I believe it's awful, but
take our word for it. It's not awful. The movie's not awful. It just drags.
Yeah, it's watchable.
It should not be an hour and a half long. But go ahead. What did you think of the short story?
Yeah. So at first, this is honestly my first Stephen King short story novel I've read.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I want to say that I read.
Well, it's not a novel; it's a short story.
Short story. Well,
it's a short story in an anthology.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the correct terminology there.
Right.
Yeah, but huge fan of how he's able to write and just throughout the way I was able to picture all of it and how he's able to like say something in the beginning and then like towards the middle and end you'll be able to like relate back to it, just like how the marriage and like other dealio that he has going on.
Yeah. And
just to argue, like they made 10 movies of these, which I think this should have just stayed a short story. I just think it's way more effective rather for your imagination to put some pieces together rather than a movie that's not very good.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, you guys know how I feel about the movie. The beginning, the end of the movie, it's awesome.
Right.
The other 70 minutes, they suck. And
yeah,
it's just because, like, obviously, I don't know if Stephen King was involved with anything with the screenplay of the movie, which, he wasn't. Okay, so that's a telltale sign there for a problem.
Yeah.
And they took this really, really good, creepy, weird, and awesome short story, and they tried to drag it out, and it just didn't work. But it kind of did work because they made money. So at the end of the day, I can't really bag on the movie too much because they profited.
Exactly.
Short story-wise,
that's true.
I absolutely love the short story. Like, I'm going to email it to probably some of my friends who are into this kind of stuff because that's how cool the story is, honestly. I love the way King wrote it. I love the way he described the corn, like just constantly talking about the smell of the corn,
right?
The fertilizer.
He gets everything. He just doesn't leave.
Everything just gels so well with his writing. It
totally.
was awesome, and I like the unhappy ending, of the short story.
Yeah, because
I liked it.
Yeah, because not many stories end like that. Everybody always wins. So I don't want to say it's nice to see that the characters die, but it gives it some realism.
It was way more realistic that they got killed. I mean, a bunch of, you're gonna get outnumbered by these kids. Sure, they're smaller than you. Sure, they're dumb kids, but still, they got numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right. This movie is corny, not to give it a pun there.
I'm surprised that was the first time.
We waited this long to do that? How long?
I know.
We could be like a half hour into this, and we're dropping the corn pun. All right.
I'm not going to talk about my thoughts on the movie. We all know how the movie is. The short story, I mean, it's a good short story. It's written by Stephen King, who is arguably the most famous writer in the world of all time. And I guess the only optimistic side I would like to see from this is an updated short film. I want to see somebody make an updated nowadays short film
that sticks true
to the short story. That's exactly what I want to see.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
Hell yeah.
It's like, what is the line?
So if anybody out there is listening and has read the short story and is thinking about making that into a short film,
do it.
Let's do it.
Hey, come on, do it. Something quickly I want to bring up too, my only critique on the short story, this is really the only problem I had with it, was that the amount of time that passed that these kids were able to operate with their own cult, basically, is kind of ridiculous. Other people would be moving through the area.
Oh yeah.
There'd be police. There'd be mail.
It's far fetched. For sure.
It's far fetched, but whatever. I can look past that.
Story.
Yeah, I can look past it.
Stop thinking so literally.
Hey, come on, man. Open up your mind.
No matter what platform you're using to listen to us, I just want it to be known that we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you like our content, please be sure to follow all of our channels so you can stay in the loop with new episodes. Also, feel free to give us a rating and leave us comments, or send us an email at screenplayjunkie.show@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. On the next episode, we're going to be talking about the 1993 classic baseball film, The Sandlot. We hope you can join us.